Global AppSec Tel Aviv 2019 Leaders Meeting. We're probably going to keep this relatively short so that, thank you. We're going to keep this relatively short so that you can actually have time to ask any questions that you have at the end and then get to the important stuff, which of course we all know is the food and the drinks. All right. All right, the agenda for tonight is the foundation update, the chapters update, projects update, the events, and the operational update. The first thing to note is that I don't know who was at the last Global AppSec, but there you go. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. But we've got a slightly different staff than we did last time. Some of you, if not most of you, might know the interim executive director. He came on board January 2nd.
It's lovely.
It's Mike McCaman. He's in the back there, as you know. You all know me, probably. I've only been here for a year, so it's not like I've been here for a very long time. So. Also in the back is our events director, Emily Berman. She came on board just, this month, right? Yes. We're expecting really great things of her. That's right, all of them. And our senior manager of sponsorship and membership, she is also here tonight, Kelly Santalucia. And if you are a leader and not a member, first of all, shame. And second of all, she's back here in the corner if you want to talk to her. Not here tonight is our community manager, but you probably all know her, Dawn Aitken. She mostly deals with chapters. So if you're a chapter leader, you know her very well. Spent a lot of time with her. Our project and sponsorship manager is Lisa Jones. She's also not here tonight. And finally, we have an accounting firm, if you will, who takes care of our accounting. Those are the people who, whenever you put in the JIRA tickets, it goes to them to pay you. Okay? That's right. Okay. Here's our OWASP Foundation board. That recently changed as well. We have three new members? 3, right? So first and foremost is our chairman, Martin Noblock. He's been here for quite some time. Owen Pendlebury, who could not be here. He's our vice chairman. Sharif Mansour, he's our treasurer. If you get a chance to go to the Open Security Summit, you'll get to meet him. He'll be at the Open Security Summit after this, it's right after this event. Our secretary is Ofer Meor. He's a new board member. And secretary. And then we have our 3 members at large. That's Chensi Wang. She could not be here. Richard Greenberg, who is right here. And Gary Robinson, who also could not be here. Okay. No. Okay. So the current theme for the OWASP Foundation staff is to simplify, unify, and grow. And I don't think the last 2 are going to be that easy without the first one. One of the biggest problems we have as a staff is that all of our... Welcome, Tanya. One of our problems is that a lot of our processes are a little bit convoluted. Most of you probably are aware of this. So one of our biggest things we need to do is reduce the complexity of the processes so that we can advance the mission of the foundation. Next, and you'd have to say it's equally as important, is to unify the community, have us all moving toward one OWASP, if you remember that from the previous AppSec. Our goal is one OWASP. That's right. State the obvious, thank you. And last is, of course, once we can simplify and unify, then we can grow the foundation to move forward and create these big events that Emily is going to be moving us toward, right? Thank you. So the future directions: revive the chapter and project committees, which, with Richard's help and the help of Andrew Vanderstock, we were able to say that the project committee will be ramping up here shortly. And with the project committee, we're really hoping to be able to move quicker on, like, for instance, project reviews. Right now, the project reviews are done at these AppSec events. The reason for that is because it's really the only time we have where we can get enough project people together to get the reviews done. And if we had a project committee, we could certainly do a lot more of that.
Howard,
Yes.
but just to emphasize, that's one thing. We want more. If you're in this room, we're
Yes.
asking you to consider, I know you're all busy, right? But we're the kind of people that take on this stuff. To try to start up some other committees, such as chapter leaders committee, that's very important. Maybe a committee to assist Emily in marketing. There's a variety of others that you could look towards starting up. But if you can't, please tell your chapters that we're looking for volunteers to start up committees. And I know that we have a committees 2.0 document on the wiki that will help you, that will guide you through it. I know it seems like it could be a lot, but once you read it, the foundation staff can assist if you have questions. We really want some help because we have limited staff and limited board members, and the committee has been very vocal for many, many years. We just love you all to get involved in that, and this is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. As another example of that, when it comes to projects, and I speak projects because that's near and dear to me, one of the things we talked about at the previous AppSec and that we've been wanting to move forward are project services, for instance. The ability to have a place where the project leaders can go to say they need a GUI person, they need translation, they need documentation, anything like that. We'd have a place where the project leaders could go to get people to help them with that. And right now, we haven't been able to do that. But if we had a project committee, we'd have a lot more people being able to push that forward. So among the other things that we're working on, some of the staff projects that we have is the website. I don't know how many of you actually read the blog, the last blog that we did. Thank you, Martin. But it talks specifically about moving the website, making a more modern website, putting it in GitHub is actually what we're looking at. And we think that will actually help promote the foundation outside of normal OWASP people. We're used to the wiki, right? I mean, you're used to it, you see it. But if you all know Matt Tesoro, when his 16-year-old daughter went and looked at the website at one point, she was like, is this a real business? Right? So we don't want people going there and thinking that. Most people in security know who OWASP is. We want those people who aren't part of security, who might be just starting up to go, OWASP is real, and our current presence doesn't say that. So we're looking for help as well on the website. Right now we've got Ken, who is with GitHub. He's going to help us. Andra has volunteered to help us. Thank you, Andra. Jonathan Marshall and Dominique. There you are. So thank you. So we're going to be looking to move that forward within the next month or two, right? Hopefully the next month. Right, Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. Some of the other things we're looking at are changes to the corporate sponsorship. You'll see more about that later as we send out more communication about that. we're looking to revise the policies in the leaders' handbooks. And what that means for you right now is just that we're trying to coalesce what is policy and take them out of the leader handbooks, for instance, because they both reference similar things, but separately, if you know what I mean. Whereas we want to be able to say, if the policy for a spending policy is in one place, project leaders, chapter leaders, it doesn't matter who you are, it's the same place to go look and see. Okay.
Data normalization.
Yes, thank you. The final one is the event planning, which I've mentioned a couple of times already with Emily. We're going to move forward with, what are we looking at next year? I'm trying to make her commit. 3 events, 4 events, what are we looking at?
Right now, the plan is to do 3 global events next year, 2020. May, we will go to Europe. And in September, October, we'll be back in the U.S. And then in December, we're planning to have a conference in Japan. That one's much more speculative at this point in time.
All right, there you go. Speculative.
What about Canada?
We've talked about Canada. In fact, that was one of the cities we were talking about for North America. The challenge is that if you're an American, 2 out of every 10 Americans have a passport.
What? Yeah.
Which means 8 out of 10 Americans do not. They would not travel to Canada, even though it's that close. And so the logic is that we haven't made a decision yet, but we were looking at Canada, but the reason why we were thinking that may not work is for that reason, that it would deter Americans to go unless there's a big rush to get passports. So
Do Canadians have a passport to come?
yes,
Oh,
we do.
yeah. You wanted to say you
It's not the good old America, it's the new America. And yes, you have to have a passport to come back into the States, even as an American from
The same thing
Canada.
happened, you can never leave.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, they
It's a good deal. Lots of
To counter that argument, though,
It has not been decided. Yeah.
and to counter that argument,
Control chapter supported it. And the question would also be how many of the AppSec community don't have a passport? But Americans will.
I feel other people have.
at least from the American perspective, to counter that argument, we work in tech, therefore it's not like we're hurting for that, right?
And counter question, how many Canadians also have a passport that can't enter the U.S.?
I don't know. I remember that. I almost know one.
Almost no one does? It almost no one doesn't.
Everyone has one.
anyone on staff, because we're talking about this right now. But the one thing that we are going to do, and Emily and I have talked about it a lot, is we want to make sure that we're planning the next 2 and 3 years out. We don't want to do this like 6 weeks out, we decide to have a conference kind of a thing, because it's insane for everybody involved. I think it'll help us get better speakers. I think it'll get us better keynotes. It'll help grow the attendance. Sponsors, all of those things help if people get a long period of time for notice. So that's one thing we are going to do for certain. Where the events actually happen is still under discussion, but the commitment to having a long-term plan is absolutely within the near term.
So obviously, even if we don't do Canada next year, we start now, we can talk about 2020. Moving forward, the chapter update, we have a total number of chapters of 262 that has increased by 51 in 2019. That is actually a really big number for the small amount of time that has transpired since the beginning of the year. The layout there, which you cannot probably read, it just basically says United States is the first one, then it's Europe, Asia Pacific, Middle East, Latin America, Africa, Canada, Caribbean, and then virtual chapters. Dawn's not here, but I think I can argue that probably some of the biggest growth in chapters has been in the Middle East and Latin America.
And India.
And India, right. Asia Pacific then? Or is that Middle East? This is a chart that shows the same thing as the previous one, but slightly different. Showing that Europe and the United States is the largest, but the biggest growth is, as Mike said, India, for instance. So for project update, we are talking about reviving the project summits. As you know, most of you probably know this, the Open Security Summit, which is a project summit that's not put on by OWASP specifically, is coming up next week. And one of the things that's really interesting about project summits is it gives an opportunity for people who are in projects, project leaders, project contributors, it gives them the opportunity to get together in a single place, sit down with their peers in a single place all together without distraction from other items, and sit and talk about your project, work on the project, specifically work on the project. That's probably the most important thing that gets done. It doesn't happen, for instance, at AppSec events because there's just not enough time to get that done. So at these project summits, you get to sit with the other people, your project peers, and talk about your projects, collaborate with other projects to see how they might work together. So we are going to, upcoming in 2020, we're looking at reviving project summits for OWASP Foundation. And whether, we haven't decided what we're going to do yet as far as where it's going to be or how it's going to coincide with the conferences, but that's on the roadmap.
Sorry, sure. And a quick show of hands. Here's your two choices. Would you like to have a summit at the same time as a conference, like it overlaps with the training? Or would you rather have it completely separate? Now there's benefits to it doing it either way. If it's separate, then of course it's only those 3 days, you're only there for that, and there's nothing else going on, but you have to travel, to that. Or you could have it in conjunction with a conference, which means you couldn't go to the training, and there'd be other stuff going on, but you could also go to the conference too. And you'd only have one trip, if that makes any sense.
I think the context of both of them are different, so I would prefer separate.
Well, so quick show of hands.
Wait, I'm confused though. Would it be like the summit, then the training, then the conference, or
No.
would the training
No,
and the
well,
summit
just
happen at the
push it
same
one
time?
time. So one idea that's out there is that we have the summit running in parallel to training, and then the conference would be alone on 2 days at the end. That's one idea. The other idea is that the summits would be completely separate.
Mike, I think this vote is going to be biased because the people who go to the summit are not the people who are here.
That's
Except for
fair.
those of us who are going to the summit next week.
But it would be good to get a show. I just want to.
Better for us.
Right now, we all, what's that?
Better for all or what's better for us in here?
Well, I would always hope that you would vote for what's better for all of us.
It's good. It's a question.
Both.
Sometimes that's the same thing.
But I mean, right now we're operating in a vacuum, so it'd be good. I don't know where the room is, if it's 50-50 or 80-20, because it would be helpful just to know even that.
Can we get a show of hands of who's actually gone?
Then we can attend summit as well.
What's that?
Yeah.
If the conference and summit both are combined, then we can go to summit and conference as well.
I understand. So the question is, which would you prefer? Them to be at the same time, or the summit to be separate from conferences?
Same time. Same time. Same time.
Same.
Hold on a second. First, let me get a show of hands of people who've actually been to one of the project summits. Whether it was one in the past or the recent one.
What did you say?
Who has actually been to a project summit, say Open Security Summit, or one of the previous ones?
Now can we go, just a quick show of hands. Who would like to have the summit separate from a conference? And then who would like it to be at the same time? It's about 50-50. So there's still a lot of work and feedback to get to hear. There's not like an overwhelmingly view of one way or the other. And that's what I wanted to know.
And I guess the option you didn't offer is what we have right now, where they're back to back. Because the only reason I was able to come to the conference is because it's right before the summit.
It sounds like a perfect opportunity for a survey.
Well, and see, that's the challenge, is because my travel is so expensive, combining it into a single longer trip is the only way I could do it.
But can other people be out of the office for 2 weeks?
That's not really out of the office.
Yes.
Thank you. We're talking about this right now, so we want to have your feedback. Harold's another point for that as well. But we're having discussions on what it would look like, how similar or dissimilar will it be from the Open Security Summit. Do we work with the people that organize that summit? And we don't know yet, but just getting some sense of where the community is helpful. And the good news is there's not like an obvious path, so we need to keep getting more feedback. Martin.
It's not one or the other, because we already have some summits in AppSec. We have, for example, Scrum, as a project, organized our own internal summit, just organizing budget and the next step. So it's not one and the other one we forget, and we also have more options than one goal.
Sure. I won't go into the whole spiel about how important project summits are, because you can read it right there.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who don't know much about certain projects.
Sure.
So it's good that people get to know, especially the leaders get to know about these projects, and then they take it to the respective locations.
Absolutely, and that's actually what you just said is important when it comes to project collaboration. A lot of the issues that we may have with projects where they're using the same information but different, right?
Right.
Would not happen so much if projects were to somehow be in the same place where they could talk about the things and go, oh, hey, you know what, we're working on that too, right?
Yes.
So I've talked about the project committee already. So we have 139 projects currently, and 12, it doesn't sound like many, but it is actually, 12 are currently new this year, and there's 14 awaiting leader updates.
What does it mean?
What is that?
That's what I was going to say. So whenever a project is created, what I do is I take in, what they are wanting to do, then I create a wiki page, for instance, and set everything up for them. And then the next step is for the leader to actually go in, update the page, do the GitHub, get everything ready that needs to be there. And you won't see the project on the project inventory until all of that is done. There's no point in me giving a project out there that you're going to go to and you're going to look at it and go, okay, there's nothing here, there's no GitHub, there's nothing. So it only happens when all of that takes place. And so there are 14 projects that are almost complete, let's call them that. There are quite a number of them, I would say 6 to 7 of them that I will be reaching out to fairly shortly to say, we need to move forward or we need to just drop the whole thing. But
What do you normally use as a time that they have to do it? Don't want to wait for 6 months.
Right, it's about 6 months. And actually we have, it's fair, we have a number of projects that are about 6 months where they have not done anything. And they're going to get an email from me shortly. And either they're going to update it or we're going to remove them from the list. I strongly suspect that they will actually do it. Go ahead.
What is a project waiting leader update? It's a project that is automated or a project without leader?
That's what we're just talking about.
Right.
It was thinking.
Just to state it again, it's a project that really hasn't started as far as OWASP is concerned. They have the very bare bones wiki page. They have nothing in their GitHub, for instance, and they're just waiting. It's not about, there are some projects, I'm going to put this out there, you can disagree with me if you feel that it's wrong, but there are some projects where 6 months might go by and you don't need an update to that project. There really are. It's not normal, especially not in security. But if you're a tool project or a code project, you're going to have different changes. Documentation project, maybe not so much. It just depends, right? Okay, for events, Global AppSec Delegate 2019. Hopefully you realize you're here. Welcome, it's been really great so far. Thank you. Global AppSec DC 2019, that the call for papers and trainings ends on May 31st. We are talking about extending